Everyone take a nice deep breath, please. And thank you for joining me for this time of sacred space. I've been guided to come forth to bring an activation around the focus of allowing your evolution to carve out your profitable path. And so most of you know, if you've been a part of activations that I've done, these are very much impromptu activations. I don't have anything planned. I just get a sense of a core focus to bring forth. And then I allow myself to be present and to see what wants to materialize through guidance and wisdom from my journey and just any other divine guidance that wants to provide the wisdom and insight. I want to preface, as I mostly do when activations come forth, this is not channeled information or channeled experience. As I mentioned, it's from my experience, but allowing myself in the present moment to connect to the journey and also the divine guidance to bring this forth. And so again, there's no planned agenda. The agenda is to be intentional, to be in the receptive mode, and to bring forth that which is going to be most relevant and beneficial for you at the highest level of value. Everyone take a nice deep breath, please. Okay. So give me a moment just to be present in the space. And as I am just being present with my overall process and also, again, divine guidance, I feel guided to actually talk about the evolutionary journey and a process that continues to ensue. Really, it's moment by moment. And we've been taught and conditioned that we should not be destination focused, that we should focus more on the journey than the destination. And to some extent, that school of thought has served us. But in the newer expansion, it takes more of a back seat in terms of it being the primary focus. In one of my main primary works, I combine the journey and the destination. It is actually destination station, and being able to tune into the station of who you are and the nation also of who you are, in terms of being present with both the journey and the destination and marrying the two, because they are both as equally important. And in some of my teachings, I talk about how you have to actually allow yourself to arrive at times, to actually come into a destination portal, if you will, or just maybe a landing place, so to speak. And the reason why this is important is because the destination is a part of the journey. And once you quote unquote arrive, that's not really it. It starts a new phase of the journey. And so you do have to allow yourself to not be so consumed and conditioned in terms of the journey, because one phase of the journey gives birth to another phase of the journey, and then it just continues. And destination is very much a part of that. And so in the evolution of our understanding, there will be expanded awareness and next level comprehension to understand that there comes a point where there has to be the unification and the merger and the cohesiveness. If you get too journey focused and you're continuing to think you're always on a journey a certain way, then you're actually postponing things that actually could already be have come into fruition, so to speak. We have to understand in the evolutionary process of the journey that there are the times where there's going to be the the growth, the transformation, the actual metamorphosis that then gives way to the evolution. So in a lot of my works, I metaphorically leverage the caterpillar turning into the butterfly. And I know in a lot of teachings, they liken that more to a transformational process. But in the expansion, it's more evolutionary because we are taking something, uh, being, so to speak, in an insect form that then breaks down and becomes a new creation. And though, yes, it does become a new creation within still the insect family, so to speak, but it actually becomes a new breed of it. And in our journeys, it's very much the same, though it seems that it's transformational, and it is to a certain extent, but it is very much evolutionary. And the reason why most people can actually come into their fuller, if you want to call it manifestation, and when I say manifestation, I'm just talking about a trajectory, a physical format of an experience. If we don't allow the evolution to ensue and to be birthed a certain way, that way, if you don't allow that to happen, you will stay in metamorphosis. And to some extent, we're always going to be in a metamorphosis in some area of our lives. But you have to be able to determine and make the distinction in terms of what is metamorphosis and what has now evolved that can now be what I say optimized into an experience, right? And so it's just as the Bible talks about separating the wheat from the chaff. You have to know you can allow it all to be there and come up together, but at some point there has to be a distinction, a separation in terms of what is really still journey and what needs to be the arrival point. But keep in mind, it's still working together as a cohesive unit, but each level of functionality needs to serve its purpose. The operations have to be accurate. Otherwise, if not, it's going to be like trying to play a sheet of music and you're very off key. There's no harmonization because there's playing and there's activity going on. But a clarinet is not supposed to be bringing forth what a flute does or a trombone does. So the functionalities have to be accurate in terms of what is being played. And so you have to look at your journey very much in that way. So again, as I'm still being present in terms of what the activation will bring forth, it's just I'm allowing the wisdom of my journey to come forth to provide some context before this activation ensues. So everybody take a nice deep breath, please. And take another one, please. Okay. So I want everyone to just get settled in the space. Allow yourself to be really free from distractions at this time. But also at the same time, not so focused on being so far removed from distractions that you get distracted by focusing on that. Just really being in a very natural, organic state, but minimizing, yes, the outward experiences that could be going on so that you can actually be very intentional about being here and being present during this time. Because being present is so important. And that's why even inviting in breath work and connecting to the life force and connecting to the power of now is so important. Because no matter what we've lived and what we will live, all we really have is this moment. And so allow this moment to be your destination moment where it is, yes, the accumulation of the journey, but now having an arrival point and allowing this to be a new jump off point to greater expansion. So as the core theme during this time is around allowing your evolution to give way to a new profitable path, to allow that to carve out your profitable path. And when I speak of your profitable path, this is about holistic profitability, which encompasses everything that is relevant to your total well-being. That's for your highest and best good, and for you actually evolutionizing and shifting into that level of a trajectory that's going to be most beneficial for this phase, but also preparing you for the next phase. So I feel guided to speak about this for just a moment. We hear a lot about quantum shifting and shifting timelines and different things of that nature. And I'm not here to knock any type of perspective, so to speak, but I do want to just kind of expand your awareness around kind of a different way of thinking as it relates to that is really more individualized in terms of you discovering what's true for you within concepts versus actually adopting certain schools of thought to be like the gospel for you. And the reason why this is important as it relates to your evolution is because the evolutionary journey is very much a individuality type of experience. And though other experiences seem to be individuality as well, an individual experience, I should say. But what happens is most people actually lock into some type of framework. They lock into some type of path and then start to become disciples of that path and develop themselves in that way. And then that path or that school of thought, that paradigm actually becomes their framework and context that then actually kind of takes them out of what is really going to be uniquely for them according to sources, definition, and perspective, according to God's full design for an individual. And though different schools of thought have definitely served, and at times we are called down certain paths, and we do become disciples of those paths, we do embody and embrace those teachings. But what happens is that in the newer context of who you are evolving into, is that those go through a metamorphosis and now come into their evolutionary state, which would be, again, likened to the butterfly state, so to speak. And now really living life and starting to launch and land yourself from that perspective so that you can soar. This is how you start to ultimately start carving out your own profitable path that will not be according to traditional cookie cutter, one size fits all types of frameworks, right? This is going to be something very unique to you, your own success template that is really about your truth trajectory. And so, as I mentioned about, we hear about quantum shifting. Now, why in the evolutionary context, the quantum shifting is not as serving or shifting into different timelines a certain way is not really as serving, because there are times people can make shifts and they actually could possibly not be ready for that level of shifting. And sometimes we think, well, you won't shift into something until you're ready. But no, there are plenty of times where people actually have shifted into different levels of experiences that they weren't really prepared for. They may have been prepared for it in terms of skill, but there could be other conditionings that weren't worked out, things unresolved that they didn't fully flesh out in inner work and inner game mastery of self. So when they shifted into that trajectory, sometimes their character could not sustain that level of a shift, even though they came into the manifestations. You see it with when people win the lottery, right? They win the lottery, but then they're, broke in a higher income bracket in a sense, and they weren't really prepared for that experience, though they aligned with it and it came about. a lot of times they're broke within a certain amount of time because they did not develop themselves prior to be able to be good stewards and to really have the capacity to sustain that level of a significant shift. So what the evolutionary journey does is it actually doesn't allow you to open up different, if you want to call them realms or portals. And I don't mean that in a woo-woo way. I'm just meaning it more so in just paths, trajectories, opportunities, so to speak. And it's because it's not that you're not ready for certain opportunities. What it is that you don't want to actually get into those opportunities and create a trajectory where then you get stuck in there building your life in that context. And it's designed to be more of a resting stop, a transition stop, but not necessarily a place of residency for you to set up in a permanent way, because there's another expansion and you don't need anything to slow you down in that regard, right? So a lot of you, the reason why there hasn't been the, if you want to call it again, manifestations or the fruition of different goals or things that you feel should be already in your world by this time, it is definitely because there's been expansion. And the Bible talks about in the prayer of Jabez about enlarging your tent, expanding your tent. And a lot of times that's what's happening in evolution, is that you're pitching a bigger tent, you are expanding, and that journey is evolutionizing itself so that you actually can come into something that's more fuller. And it can be in Ephesians 3:20, which is more than you can ask, think, or imagine, right? So you want to be able to allow your evolution to start carving out this type of trajectory, this level of a trajectory that is far beyond what you can ask, think, or imagine, right? Because the limitations in terms of what you think you want to come in fruition is very finite in terms of you being able to wrap your mind around it. Because if you can actually perceive it a certain way, it already is too small, it already is too limited. But a lot of times we are given a seed of a concept and a vision, and we think that that's the grander thing. And what I've learned over time is that if I receive it in a vision, it's pretty much conceptual, and it's going to grow and expand into something more than what I think. And so we spend time along the journey trying to actually bring forth a vision that we thought, this is it, and I'm getting to that, and that's the destination. And it is but yet really a seed. It is very much the acorn of what wants to come forth as an oak tree. So when you are trying to bring forth an acorn to be the oak tree, that's why there is no arrival. And that's why there is no really going through the process of allowing the evolution to take place. You spend time trying to work that acorn a certain way that you haven't planted it accurately so that it can actually become the oak tree because you think it's about the acorn. But what I will say is that in your working out, trying to work that acorn, you actually have been cultivating. It's just been in a very non-linear way, where the working out of it and it not working in a sense, then gives you the opportunity to allow the evolution, the growth to come forth. So you can now look at your situation and now see it through butterfly eyes versus caterpillar eyes, where you're so close on there. Allow that to break down, allow that to become unformed so that you can, in fact, bring forth whatever the metamorphosis is. And that is what's going to bring forth the evolution. And the evolution is what is going to then carve out this profitable new path for you. So everyone take a nice deep breath, please. Okay. All right. So as I'm being present here in terms of an activation that is ready to come forth, I'm being guided to really focus on being beyond the journey, allowing yourself to arrive in the moment, and allow yourself to feel whatever you believe to be is the expansion of what it is that you are or have been, quote unquote, waiting on, whether it's finances, whether it's health, whether it could be just a holistic experience in terms of your lifestyle, just your way of being, your new sense of calling, your new sense of purpose. It can be a combination of those things. So just bring into your awareness what you believe that to be. And now I want you to take a deep breath and ask, what is the metamorphosis of this experience? What is beyond the cocoon? Take a deep breath, please. And now ask for the expanded awareness around what is now beyond the cocoon, beyond the metamorphosis. It's as if you were to launch from that cocoon, or you already launched from that cocoon, but not yet flying, not yet soaring, but you're getting ready to. Where do you feel that you are going? Where are you being guided to fly, to soar to? Right? Take a deep breath, please. And now as you begin to take flight, to start soaring, allow yourself to be guided in a new direction. And not really focusing on, oh, I've prepared all this time for this, and now it seems like I'm going in a different direction. I thought this was going to be it. So you've allowed yourself to arrive enough of completion. But now you're being guided to go beyond. There's something more, and you don't necessarily know what that is, and you have to be okay with that. Take a deep breath, please. And to provide some comfort, is that even if you feel like you're letting go of something, you're not really letting go. It is just the format in which you've had a picture of it is basically taking on a new form, and it does come along with you. But it's ultimately going to be what's going to start carving out this newer expansion, this newer path. So you don't know what that newer path is. But the only thing that you need to know is that it is the path of your highest profitability as it relates to holistic profitability. It's the highest trajectory form at this phase that's going to bring you your ultimate fulfillment. And again, for this phase, this is the benefit of allowing yourself to arrive enough that now this phase of the journey will give birth to the next phase. Take a deep breath, please. So allow yourself to feel free as you are just soaring into the unknown, just knowing that everything that you have become up until this point is now guiding you. It is carving out, navigating through that which is unfamiliar to you. And now this is the part where you are more present with this part of the journey. And you're not even so destination focused at this point. You can feel as if you're sort of on vacation and you're just observing and allowing yourself to just be in the moment. You know you're going to arrive at your profitable destination, which I want to encourage you in terms of understanding that there's going to be so many different destination stops, that each trip, if you will, because that's pretty much what it is, along this journey has little destinations, and you're going to be making little stops there. But as I mentioned, you're not going to be setting up residency. You're just going to allow it to keep building and building, and then you'll know when you're at this more expansive type of experience. You'll know when the evolution has ensued enough that you can now, quote unquote, arrive a little bit more in a permanent state of beingness. But keep in mind also that every stop along the way, you have the opportunity to return and gain more experiences, so to speak. So this is not really a linear process in the sense it's you, though you're not grounding or arriving in terms of setting up residency in those places, but what happens is those places set up residency within you a certain way, but enough to be mobile with it, to be mobile. All right. So you're transporting, you're picking up little things from each place, each part of the experience, and you're carrying it with you. And as you're picking that up, that's what's plowing through. You being on this evolutionary expansion and allowing the evolution to keep expanding you, right? Take a deep breath, please. Now, feel yourself arrive for just a moment, as if you have been on a train and there's a stop and you've gotten off and you're at a certain destination and you're going to take the opportunity to go and explore that town or that place. But then something says that this feels like home for me now. This feels like home for me now, right? So then you start exploring how you can maybe start to set up residency there. But at the same time, it's feeling like, let's say, home base number one, that this isn't my only home. There's multiple homes, multiple places I will be. So I don't need to get too comfortable in terms of I can't come out of this form to go to another. And for some of you, that may be a little intimidating, very unfamiliar, like what? But be with that possibility. Be with that possibility. Take a deep breath, please. So as you are allowing yourself to start preparing to be in this, what feels like a new home base, imagine that you're going to be there for maybe 90 days. What would you be doing for those 90 days? Would you be looking to set up a temporary home, or would you just stay somewhere like in a lodging for that time, Airbnb or something, or would you actually decide to maybe rent a place and allow that to be what you set up for your home base one, and then you allow yourself to go to where the next destination leads you, right? Take a nice deep breath. And I know some of you are probably thinking, now, where's the money for this? um, and the reason why I haven't really brought that part up, or haven't had the guidance, I should say, to bring that part up, is because every step of this journey, when you're in this soaring perspective, all things are provided above and beyond in very uncommon ways. And so you will have resources and have the uncommon resourcefulness to do exactly what the journey is guiding you to do and to be. Take a deep breath, please. So you've carved out enough to be at this place. And in this place, as you're setting up and you're there for like 90 days, or some of you maybe 30 to 90 days, so to speak. And imagine that in this place, there is that holistic profitability, the resources, the finance, the well-being. It's set you up for, yes, your highest level of optimum living for this phase, right? So as you're in this experience, and I mentioned in terms of if you had 30 to 90 days, or I just say really 90 days to be there, and you knew you were going to be moving on, and what would be your activity? What would you be doing? Would you be sightseeing, exploring that town, or even if you did set up a home there or renting a place or so, but you knew that, but I'm going to actually be away from here, maybe for several months. What would you be setting up there? How would you prepare the place? And again, what would be your activities? What would be your activities? What would you be committing to? What would you not be committing to? What would you be investing in? How would you spend your time? What are you planning for next? Take a deep breath, please. Okay. All right. So now, allow yourself to be in the space where you've received guidance of what comes next. That you're 60 days into this experience of being where you are. And you know within the next 30 days, you're going to actually be going someplace else. So imagine that you actually know where you're going to be going. what would be your activity now? How would you be preparing? Would you already go and explore that place, take a trip there to know maybe if you need to prepare a different way? So what would be your activity? What would be, yes, your activities in terms of the preparation for this next phase? Take a deep breath. And what profitability is speaking to you? Again, this will be from a holistic vantage point, but primarily at this time, it will be more in the grander financial context. That maybe there's a financial opportunity that is presenting itself. And maybe that's what's going to help you shift to the next phase of the journey of where you're going. And when I say help you shift, it doesn't mean that that money is required for you to do it, because you'll already have the profitability to do that. But it could be that this expansion is the next level for everything that's going to come, everything that's emerging, right? But part of that is filling itself in at this phase. Take a deep breath, please. Right? Now, at this moment, I want you to feel into all that you have become through this process so far. You being in that place of arrival, so to speak, that has now started a new part of the journey. What have you become? Who have you become? What have you learned? What have you developed based on the experience so far? Take a deep breath, please. Okay. So be present with that, because that too is going to help you to start carving out more of this profitable path. And if you've already discovered, again, the next destination, so to speak, that you're going to be going to, it's like both parts are pulling, they're meeting together. What's emerging and the evolutionary juncture here they're coming together. It's a union. And it's like locking in another chain, if you will, another link that then is going to lock into another link. And just help you to keep moving through this expanded profitability, this expanded evolutionary path, right? And I know some of you are thinking, does this ever end? Well, the expansion and the evolution never ends, but you will ground yourself in permanency for sure. But you just need to allow this part of the journey now to keep giving way to that greater expansion, so that it ultimately carves out an expanded path, which you will then see actually are multiple paths, multiple trajectories that you get to live from these different awarenesses and these different levels of experiences of these trajectories actually merging together. Everyone take a deep breath, please. Okay. All right. So now, with that awareness of the joining together, the activation is ready to be grounded, because there's enough momentum that has been built up here, enough momentum anchored that you have enough expanded awareness and now a next level comprehension about how this part of the journey works and the continuation of this, and how you can ground the different levels of wisdom as you go from port to port, so to speak, until this expanded path and paths have revealed themselves and now are harmonious. Okay. Flutes are playing like flutes and clarinets are playing like clarinets. And you are the conductor of this harmonious symphony of your life at this point. Your evolutionary symphony now comes into full expression. Take a deep breath, please. Right. So what wants to be activated now is the expanded metamorphosis and evolution of the beyond the cocoon process. The journey that you have lived up into this point within this process of awareness of this new part of the journey, and also the merger of what's pulling you, the next phase, being unified. So we take the highest trajectory of possibilities in the now according to this process that has been underway, and also that which is emerging and drawing you to that part now. So we activate and we ground and we unify this cohesive experience and allow the destination of this to ensue and come into fruition and be the highest trajectories of fulfillment. This is your evolution that is carved out, the multiple paths for you in terms of your multi-potential, the multi-possibilities, and the multi-levels of profitability that are all present for you here in the now, to tune into, to be present with, and to feel that it is you and that it is already done. So we activate this. We ground it, we anchor it, we mandate it in the core, mind, body, and spirit, and the soul of the evolution. Everyone take a nice deep breath, please. And just be present with that. And just take time to be with this. Thank you. Just take the next week or weeks to allow this to continue to move through you. And you'll see in your external reality things start to shift as this newer form of you will now express itself. Your interior and exterior have now come into harmonization and unification. And just watch your life sort of magically, not transform, but evolve right before your eyes. And you find yourself at this arrival point, but also ready for the next phase of your profitable journey. Take a deep breath, everyone. And with that being said, this experience is complete. Be well and stay blessed. Thank you.